Greetings everyone, Jacob Dupre here. I'm excited to be joining the Jazz Lesson Videos team with this video. A little bit about me, I've been a professional musician for about 20 years now. I studied at the Eastman School of Music and the University of Texas at Austin, where I was a performance major on piano. Today I'm going to share with you 3 strategies for jazz reharmonization that will allow you to add richer harmonies to your arrangements and your playing. All of the techniques we will be going over today come from Holger Maruyama's course on reharmonization, which you can find on the Jazz Lesson Videos website. If you'd like to dive deeper into these techniques and more, you can find the link to the course in the description below and use the code JD25 for $25 off. All right, let's get into it. First thing we're going to talk about today is techniques for reharmonizing jazz standards. I've selected In a Sentimental Mood by Duke Ellington, which is in Holger's course. He does a beautiful reharmonization and arrangement of that tune. But first, before we dive into his reharm, I'm going to play the tune in a more straight up way. The typical way. How you might hear it if you went to a jazz club, you jumped into a jam session, and there were a group of musicians playing this tune. So I'm going to play it very simply. I'm going to try not to do anything too fancy so you just get a sense of the tune in its original form. Then the A section repeats. Bridge in D flat. Now I'm going to play Holger's reharmonization of that tune. What an amazing arrangement, right? So beautiful, so much going on in here. So exactly what is going on theory-wise? Well, we're going to break it down together right now. The arrangement starts in a pretty straightforward way, just stating the melody. And we get the 1 chord, but it's very beautiful voicing, this minor 11 chord. And then the next chord, beautiful, an A altered kind of voicing, but with a lot of extensions. We have the sharp 9, flat 9, and sharp 5. So talking about upper structure triads, or upper structure chords, where we're talking about what's the upper part of the chord, there is a triad here that's very important. In this case, it's E flat. So E flat major is in the upper structure. Then we get our doubled some of those notes, but then we also get the 3rd and the 7 of A7. That's what we have. And then when we add the color notes from E flat triad, and those are based off of this scale, the altered dominant scale. If we look at the D minor 11, there was an upper structure triad in that too. C triad. So knowing those triads and stacking them with different bass notes is really important to figuring out how to construct these more complex chords. You have to be able to break them down into smaller bits. Now in terms of the progression, typically what we have here is just 1 going down D minor with the 1 going down to 7, then the flat 7, this little progression, descending progression. Which was how I played it in the normal, more simple version. But he does away with that, and disregarding the more complex chords, he simply is just doing like a 1 to 5 and back to 1 motion. And then a little variation on the melody there. And then very beautiful. Now, if we look at just the bare bones of it, the original progression is still there. We start in D minor, and then we get to G minor with a quick D7 just to tonicize to get to 4 minor. Now we have really our first moment of true reharmonization. So just playing into that moment. That was spicy. Okay, what happened in there? Okay, well, we got to the G minor sus. And then we go to B minor sus. So really what's happening is it's a parallel move there. We talked about contrary motion when lines are moving in opposite directions. This is parallel in a way because we have a G minor sus going directly up to B minor sus. Same chord type moving up a major third. And the reason why that works is because the top note is a common tone between both chords. We're shifting modes here. We're really shifting key centers here for a second. Key center is a good thing to know when you're analyzing stuff like this, is being aware of what key we're in right now. Because with a lot of these reharms and with jazz in general, we change keys very quickly. Sometimes, like in this tune, the A sections are in one key and then the bridge is completely in a different key. But sometimes it's more extreme and we're changing keys every bar or every 2 beats or so. And in this situation, we've got this G minor, but now we're going to go to more of a B minor land, which has a really cool lifting effect because if we look modally at where we've been, we started in D minor, and now we're going to B minor, which includes an F sharp. So it has this feeling of lifting us into major because that now in the global key, that 3rd scale degree, which has usually been minor F, also the relative major F, which is where we go at the end of the A section, it's now more D major. So that's that color shift we get. We also get the C sharp. So really, it's kind of similar to changing from D minor 7 to D major 7. And then what happens there? Well, now we're going to kind of a different mode. The mode is shifting again. Instead of being G minor or, D minor, kind of flat 6, then B minor / D major. Now we're E flat Lydian, which if you base all of these off of D as the starting note, is really like a D minor, a D Dorian, but with a flat 2 and flat 6. which you could call D Phrygian. And look, knowing the modes, knowing the names, knowing which of the notes are changed from the root major scale, from sort of the parent scale, all that kind of stuff is important to know. But when it comes to arranging, I really like to think things more as note collections. In your head when you're playing and writing, you don't have to get so bogged down with the theory. You can hear it. You can really hear it, and on piano you can see it. So we can see G minor sus, and then we can see D major, and then we can see E flat Lydian. And you can hear the key shifts. You can hear how the mode is changing. And the thing to remember, modes and scales are chords. Chords come from scales. Remember that. They're all coming from the same note collections, the same series of half steps and whole steps, and sometimes minor thirds. And that's the way that it's supposed to be. That's the concept that you got to keep in your mind. So when you're coming up with a voicing like this, all those notes come from a scale. From G Dorian, G minor sus. And what's so great about this full progression is that when we start our little walk up to G minor, we're really starting a sequence that's going to start there. Which is all to get us to D minor. So we change keys quickly. We go parallel up from G minor, up a major third to B. B minor sus. Now we go up another major third, but this time to a major chord, major sharp 11. And now we're going to go to another one to A flat major sharp 11, which is really another kind of parallel move, but this time we're going up a perfect fourth instead. This A flat major sharp 11 gets sort of recontextualized with a B flat, which can then be kind of a tritone sub, kind of move down to the 5. 5 of D to bring us to D minor. Now let's see about using some of these techniques, some of this stuff I broke down in our own playing. I've done a little bit of that myself. I took the standard All of Me and did a reharm just of one chorus based off of a lot of the ideas that Holger uses in his reharmonization. I'm going to play it for you now. The second thing I want to show you is an exercise that can be found in this video course. It's based on drop 2 chords. There's actually an instance in Holger's reharmonization where he does this very technique. If we look at the bridge to In a Sentimental Mood, that little move right there, we have this chord, that's our little 5-to-1. The first chord is a diminished 7. But it is a drop 2 voicing, because if we were to put this voicing in root position, it'd be an F sharp diminished 7, but we take the C, drop it down an octave. That is a drop 2 voicing, because you have a root position chord, Take the second to highest note and drop it down an octave. Okay, so what exactly is going on there? Well, let's go to the exercise. For this exercise, we're going to start with the C major sharp 5 scale. What is a C major sharp 5 scale? Well, it's a major scale with a sharp 5. So here's C major and C major with a sharp 5. Also known as a bebop scale. You'll hear that in a lot of jazz theory. Great for bebop lines. But if we take a chord voicing, in this case, a C major 6, first inversion, second inversion, now turn it into a drop 2 by taking the second to highest note, C, moving it down an octave, and now we're going to walk that shape, which is part of C major, of the C major scale, we're going to walk that shape up the bebop scale, up the C major sharp 5 scale. And when you do that, you get a very interesting sequence of chords. What's happening here is we have our initial voicing of C major 6, our drop 2, and every other voicing after that is simply an inversion, another inversion of that same chord, of those same 4 notes. Now if we take all the other chords, the ones I haven't played, and we add those, now what we have is inversions of, or kind of an arpeggiation of, a diminished 7 chord. Also in a drop 2 voicing. Now if we put them all together and play them linearly, that's what we get. For practicing this, you got to put it in as many keys as you can. So say I want to do it in F. And feel free to improvise as you go. You don't want to let improvising like that completely derail practicing your structured exercise. You want to get these types of things under your hands in as many keys as possible. But it is important to be a little free sometimes, because that's how you're able to do things like this. So that was just a little improvisation, and I was trying to use this bebop scale harmonization and some of the drop 2 voicings. The third thing I'm going to show you today is the one-note harmonization technique. We've talked about this already a lot today. It was in Holger's arrangement of In a Sentimental Mood in his reharmonization, and it's an extremely important thing when it comes to reharm. Let's listen to an example from the video course. There are many beautiful examples within the PDF that you get that's part of the course. I want to give you some other things you can do to break this strategy down and practice it in a simpler and more structured way so that you can get to the point where you can write things like what Holger has added in to the video course. So let's back it up a second and just say we're going to pick our one note. Let's pick G. We have our G. Now the exercise that I like to do, I do this to warm up all the time, and also we'll just do it in practice sessions, is to take a chromatic moving bass line, up and down, one or the other or both, and pin it against that upper pedal point, we'll call it the G, and see if I can harmonize on the fly. You can do it with a metronome, you can do it out of time, you can do it in many different ways as you could possibly imagine, more than what I could say here. But the basic point is to start with that idea of I'm going to have one note as my melody, as my top voice, that's not going to change, and I'm going to move the bass line against that and attempt to harmonize the inner voices in the middle. I'm going to start with G in the melody and also with G in the bass. I'm going to work the bass line up chromatically, try to get my way back down to G. Here we go. Okay, that was fun. Now, what I discovered doing that, as you'll discover when you do this exercise, is there are things that work, and then there are things that don't work so well. And every time you do it, you're going to learn new things on both fronts. And, you know, for instance, I really, at the end there, I liked... So in that case, we got a B altered chord, sharp 9, sharp 5, moving to a sharp 9 flat 5, or sharp 11, with the G still at the top. So that was just one thing. There were other things I did that I felt like, you know, maybe voice leading wise, or, you know, just the way the resolutions were going, it wasn't as effective. But this is how you learn, and also this is how you compose. Because I know I can speak for just about every musician out there. This is how you do reharmonization. You have to sit there with one note, and you know in this certain part of an arrangement, I need to find the right chord to reharmonize this note for this moment. I want to make a musical moment out of this, and you just got to discover. You have to explore and discover. So try this exercise and see how it goes. Don't, you know, be hard on yourself. Know that you're improvising. You're going to make mistakes, even though maybe there aren't mistakes really. And you're going to find happy accidents too. So try it out for yourself at home. One other thing I'll leave you with that builds off of the one note exercise, almost makes it simpler, even simpler in a way, but it's a little bit different. What you're going to do is static chord and then static bass. And with the static chord, you're going to move the bass. With the static bass, you're going to move the chord. So, starting with the static chord, you're going to keep the chord in the right hand. We'll do C because we always do C, right? C triad, then C in the bass. An octave's good. Then we're going to keep the chord the same and move the bass up chromatically. Now, while that's a relatively simple thing to do, if you've never done it before, it's really useful because you're going to discover some new colors just by making these slash chords. Slash chords meaning we have like C slash D flat. That would mean C in the upper structure and then a D flat single note in the bass. So all these are slash chords, C over D, C over E flat, C over E, which is like a C with the third in the bass, and you're going to discover some new sounds and some new colors that way and start exploring this idea of upper structures. Because as soon as you take something like C over D and you add the minor third, F, now you have a minor sus chord. And it was because you have that upper structure triad of C against the D, filled in with the minor in the bottom. And now I'm kind of doing what the next step is, which is to keep the bass the same and move the chord. And you will discover new voicings that way as well, new sounds. Alright, and that's our lesson. I hope you found this video helpful. Remember, if you want to dive deeper into jazz reharmonization, there's a link to the video course in the description, and don't forget that you can use the code JD25 to get $25 off. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like and a subscribe if you can, and I'll see you next time.